Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to talk about the different relationships in data modeling. So when we are talking about the data modeling, relationship there refers to the connection or association that can be established between two or more than two tables. So if you are having multiple tables and you want to know that how are these tables related to each other, that is how you would have to define some kind of relationship between them. So that whenever we are making any analysis or whenever we are making any kind of visualization, we can take the help of multiple tables at once. Now, some of the key components of this relationship are the tables, keys, and the type of relationship. So we will go to the Power BI screen and see how can we create these relationships and how can we define these relationships. So let's say that we are working with a data set and this is a global superstore data set. So we have talked about this data set. So if I come over here in the table view, I'm having currently three tables with me. The first one is the orders table in which I have the order informations. So here I'm having the order ID, order date, and the product which was order. And basically I'm having the product ID for that order and all the related information related to that particular product. Now, then I have this people table. So here what exactly is happening in the orders table, some demographic information was given. So if you look over here, I have city, state, country, market, and region. Then if we talk about this people, if you click on people, so here I have the region as well as the person who may be ahead of that particular region. So in this way, if I want to define some relationship between these two tables, I know that this region appears over here and also appears over here in the orders. That means that if I need to connect them, region might be a key over there. Then if I go to the returns table, I again have this three columns over here. The first one is the return, whether or not the order was returned. Then I have this order ID. Then I have the market. Now, the first thing to notice over here is that whenever you are creating a relationship between these two tables, you have to know that which is the fact table and which is the dimensions tables. So to know that, what I'll do is we will use this view, which is the model view. So whenever you want to do some data modeling stuff, you will come to this third option over here, which is the model view. After coming over here in the model view, you can see these tables are connected to each other. This is happening because it is automatically set to understand the relationship between different tables. If you don't want Power BI to just understand these relationships automatically, what you need to do is you can go in the files, then you can go in the options and settings, then you can go in the options, wait for it to load the window for the options. Then you can go in this data load option over here, and over here, you can see there is this relationship option. So right now, whenever I'm loading different tables over here, it is able to decide that how these tables are related to each other because this option is turned on. If I uncheck this option, it would not be creating the relationships between them automatically. Now, let's say if these relationships are not created, then I can just remove it for now. So to remove a relationship, you can go over here and use delete option. And this is how the relationships are shown at first. Now, in the previous session, we were talking about the fact table and the dimension table. So the basic way to understand the difference between the dimension table and the fact table is that the fact table will always use the foreign keys. And in the dimension table, we will be having the primary keys. Now, what is primary key and what is foreign key? So whenever we are having a column which contains some unique values, which are non-repeating, that particular values is known as the primary key. So for example, if you come over here in the table view, and if I talk about this first one, this first data, orders. Now over here, if you look closely, I am having some order ID and also I am having this customer ID. Now what exactly happens over here is that let's say if anyone is placing an order, this order ID would be generated and this order ID would be new every time a user makes a purchase. But there can be a single user who can order more than two times. So that means this customer ID can be repetitive. So let's say if I'm going to any e-commerce platform and there I'm making any purchase, and after 5 days I'm making another purchase. So my customer ID would not be changing, but the order ID would be changing. And each time a order is being placed, this would be unique. So this is how you can identify the primary key in your data set. Also, another way to verify which particular column can be used as a primary key. So for that, what you can do is you can go in the Power Query. So go to the Power Query, I'll click on this transform data option and it would open this Power Query for me. So now let's say we are in Power Query and I'm talking about three tables over here. The first one is the orders table, then the people table, and the returns table. So let's say if we are talking about this orders table first. So if I click on this, you can see I'm looking at the column profile. So here I'm looking at the distribution of different values across these columns. To view this, what you can do is you can go in the view option, and over here you can use this column distribution option. Now, a thing to notice over here is that it would show you the information based on the top 1,000 rows. If you want to look at the complete column, you can come over here at the bottom part, click, and use this option of column profiling based on the entire data set. After you do this, it would try to calculate all the values, and it would then show you the information that which particular values are repeating in your column, and if the values are not repeating, so how many distinct values are there. And that way you can find out that the values are not repeating in your column, and that may be a primary key. For example, over here, as I was talking about, the order ID would not repeat, or maybe if it is repeating, it should not be repeating, because every time a user is making a purchase, some new order ID is being generated. So over here, if you look closely, I'm having 25,035 values overall. And out of those values, 100% of these values are unique and distinct. That means no value is repeating. But if you look over here in the customer ID, you can see that I'm having some repeating values. Over here also, if we talk about some other columns, so let's say if I'm talking about the segment option. So right now I know that my whole data contains only three segments. First one is the consumer, then I have corporate, and then I have the home office. So you can see over here, I have three distinct values, and out of that, zero are unique. That means it is repeating somewhere. So in this way, you can try to identify which particular column can serve as a primary key. Now, again, if I go to the model view, so I will minimize it for now. And if I go to the model view, one thing to notice over here is that whenever we are having this fact table, this would be consisting of foreign keys majorly. It can also have some primary keys, but majorly it uses the foreign keys. And whenever we are talking about the dimensions tables, it always uses the primary keys. So these keys would be listed somewhere over here also, and these keys over here in the people would be listed over here also. Now, based on this, if I try to create some kind of relationship between them, I can easily create it. Now, to create a relationship, we can use three methods. The first method is that if you go in the files, and if you go in this options and settings, and then in the options, I told you already that there was this automatically detect the relationship option, which you can turn on. If you don't want that option to be used, what you can do is, now the second option over here is that I have this relationship option. Using this relationship option, I can manage the relationships. So in this tab, I can click on it, and then it would ask me between which tables do you want to create a relationship, or if you want it to auto detect the relationship, I also have this auto detect option. So if I click on auto detect, let's see if it is trying to detect some relationships or not. So it is saying that it has found two new relationships, and it has created a relationship between these tables. So this is one of the way in which you can try to detect some relationship. If you are not sure, as a starting point, you can do it, but this should be done very, very carefully, because whenever you are defining some relationship, then the task becomes very time consuming, and it is also using your resources. So at the background, too many things are happening, and whenever you are creating visuals, they can be slow also, because it is trying to dig out the data from all the corresponding tables as well. If I click on close, you will see that it is trying to create some relationships over here. So this is second way of creating a relationship. Now let's say if I didn't use this, what else can I do? So the third way to create a relationship is, so let me just delete these relationships for now. So we select this and delete. Again, select this and delete. Now, what is the third way to create a relationship? So I know that I have some common columns which are appearing in both these tables. So I'll use these columns to create a relationship between these tables. Now, let's say I have this order ID over here in the returns, and I also have this order ID over here in the orders, and I want to create a relationship between them in order to just see that what are the particular orders that were being returned, or let's say if I want to find some other kind of information. So what I'll do is I will drag and drop this on the top of orders order ID. So I have to drag this column, and I will drag and drop it on the same column in the other table. So what it would do is it would create a relationship between them. Now I have created my first relationship between these two tables. Now what is this star and what is this one showing, and what does this arrow resemble? Now let's say I want to create the relationship between orders and people. This time I'm again going in the manage relationships option, and I'll show you the third way. So this time I'm not using auto detect option. I will use this new option. So if I click on new, it would ask me that between which columns, between which tables particularly you want to create the relationship. So I want to create the relationship between orders and the people table. After you have done this, it would ask you what is the common column between them. So I know this region is appearing over here in the peoples and also over here in the orders. So you can see that it has automatically selected regions. So I can just select the regions in this one also and this one also. Now I will click on OK, and it would create a relationship for me. Now you can see that at the bottom part, it is showing us make this relationship active, and it is checked right now. What exactly does this option means? We will be also talking about it in the upcoming session. I can just click on OK and close, and this would create a relationship between these tables. So after we have created a relationship, now what is this relationship telling us? It means that the dimensions of these tables, so I'm talking about the people and the returns table, which are the dimensions table, would be used to slice the values over here in the orders part. That's why we are trying to create a relationship. Let's say if this relationship was not there, what kind of results were we getting? And what is the importance of creating a relationship? So what I'll do is first I will delete this relationship for now. So I can select this and delete this, or maybe I will just make it inactive. So I will be telling you what exactly is inactive in this upcoming session. But right now, let's say I'm making this inactive. Over here, I got a user query. Over here, I have this person's options. That means I have the head of each region over here in the terms of this person. And I want to see that what is the sale being done by the region. So in that case, I need to create a new visualization. For that, I will go in this report view. I will click on the new report and I will create a table. So if you're not able to create a table, refer to the upcoming sessions on how to create a table in Power BI. Now I know that I want this persons. So I will drag and drop this persons over here. I have got the list of all the people that were in that persons table, and I want to see the sales done by them. So I will drag and drop the sales over here. You can see that the values over here are repetitive. So if I just expand it, you will see these values are repeating. That means it is not giving me a proper result over here. And why is this happening? Why are these values repeating? So if I just zoom it, you can see all these values are same. This is happening because it is pulling out the persons from this people table over here, and it is pulling out the sales from this orders. Now, since there is no relationship between them, it is giving you the direct value of sales or the submission of sales, and it is just giving you all the person's name. Right now, these two are not having any kind of relationship. So that means if you're not defining relationship and if you are pulling the data from two different data sets, it would give you these kind of results, which is not fine. So in that case, what I need to do is I will again go in the model view. This time I will define relationship. So I have already made this relationship. So if you hover over here, you can see these two tables are connected based on the region. So just as I go on the top of it, you can see the region being highlighted. That means it is connecting these two tables with region. Right click on it, go to properties. For now, I will make this active and click on OK. Again, if I go to the report view, you can see the values have now changed because now these two tables are related. So it is try to figure out the best result or the perfect result which should be coming. So the person over here are coming from this people table, the sales is coming from orders table, and now I'm getting the correct value of this. So in this way, you can define a relationship between two or more than two data sets. And we have talked about the concept of primary key and foreign key. So if I was to tell you about these keys again, what I can do is I will go in this table view. In the table view, what exactly you can do is you can see all the data sets that have been loaded into your model, and you can look at the values closely. So if I just go in this orders table for now, you can see I am having multiple columns, and as I already told you, the primary key would be non-repeating. So over here, this order ID should be treated as the primary key. This should be the values inside this should be non-repeating, and also it should be non-null. That means that whenever our order is being placed, an order ID is generated. Order ID cannot be null. But if we talk about this other columns, they might have some null values. In case, let's say, if I'm having the name And in name, I was having the first name, last name, and maybe the middle name. Some people don't have middle name, or some people don't write the middle name. In that case, that can be a null value. Or let's say if a customer has only given us their first name, so in that case, the last name can have some null values. So in this way, I can try to find out the primary key. But in case of the foreign key, it can be repeating. So if I go to the another table, let's say if I'm going to the people's table, over here in the people's table, the primary key is the region, because this region is not repeating over here. Every region you can see is appearing only once, and there is a region head for each region. Now, a thing to notice over here is that two regions can also have one head, the person's name. That means this person can also repeat, maybe, but this region, since it is appearing only once, it can be treated as the primary key. But when we are talking about this same region in this orders table, so if I go in the orders table and if I go in the region, you can see these regions can repeat. Over here, I'm having EMEA value, and again, I'm having this EMEA value. So that means these regions are repeating. This is happening because I can get multiple orders from the same region. That's why this value can repeat. So this column was a primary key in the regions table. Sorry, I mean the people table, but it would be a foreign key over here in this orders table. So this dimension tables contains this data which can be expanded or which is expanding, and also it is containing some prime foreign keys. So if we talk about the facts table, there can be a data which is increasing. So and every time an order is being placed, this data would be increased, and it is also consisting some foreign keys. So that's how you try to identify the primary keys and the foreign keys, and also you try to identify what is the dimensions table and the facts table. So this was all for this session. In the next session, we'll be talking about what are the different types of relationship in data modeling. Thank you.